Hola estudiantes, ¿cómo están? En este video vamos a hablar de la lección número 1. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about lesson number 1 and some of the important or the most important concepts that we have to understand whenever we start learning Spanish. So in here we have a picture, and let me talk a little bit about this picture and about the vocabulary that we are going to be learning in this unit. So one of the cultural elements that we have in this unit is to understand why we have this picture here and why this is important. So if you flip the page to the Cultura, which is going to be on page 10, we are talking about saludos y besos en los países hispanos, and you can see that we have some English, some explanation in English of why we have this way of greeting people. So it is very common to see that a lot of people in Spain and also in Latin American countries greet each other with a kiss in the cheek, and this is especially between women or some men and females that know each other, that they are friends or close friends, that they are family, relatives, in that kind of situation. So it is not only, any random person that we greet this way, but it is a very common way to greet the people that we love. So there is a little bit more information and talking a little bit deeper into this concept in page 10. So you're going to see a little bit of that as well in the VHL Central activities, talking about these cultural elements that we have to be aware of. So one of those is to, give a kiss in the cheek when we get to know someone, or when we greet someone that we already know, that we have, some special relationship with that person. So it is true that we do that, and it is true that this is something common to see. So that is actually the picture that we have at the very beginning of our lesson number 1. So as you can see, we are going to learn in this lesson how to greet people in Spanish, how to say goodbye, identify yourself and others, so introducing yourself and others, and talk about the time of the day. So these are going to be the topics that we are going to be discussing in lección número 1. We do have grammar as well. We have a lot of vocabulary in this unit because it's the very first unit, so we have to be aware of important phrases. If we flip the page, this is going to be page number 2 in your e-companion. Remember, that is available in VHL Central. If you go to your dashboard and you go to the Content tab, and then you slide down and you're going to see e-companion over there. If you want to retrieve your book, that is how you are going to be able to do so. And this is page number 2. We have a long list of vocabulary, words, but also phrases that are going to be useful for us. And you will see a lot of these in VHL Central as well. So you have some phrases such as buenos días, buenas noches, hasta la vista, hasta pronto, and so on, right? So I want you guys to pay attention to a couple of specific concepts that are going to be important, not only in this semester or in this unit, but this is something that we need to understand for this process of Spanish learning, okay? So if you pay attention over here, and then you pay attention to buenos días, buenas noches, cómo se llama usted, and these specific phrases, you are going to see that we use a lot of plural forms to give some emphasis to greetings and these kind of expressions. So if you pay attention to buenos días, buenas noches, we also have gracias, muchas gracias. So all of those words are very expressive, right? Thank you, good morning, good night. So those expressions are in plural forms. It is important that you remember that in Spanish we have a little bit more rules regarding gender and number. So what is the gender? The gender is when we have, and we are talking about the gender in the language, right? So in Spanish, actually, we have a gender of feminine or masculine for every single noun. I was trying to find, an easier way to put this and explain this to you. But we have to understand that in Spanish, and this is a feature that comes from Latin, because actually Spanish comes from the Latin language and it has a lot of characteristics similar to that. So this is something that happens with all nouns in Spanish, even if they are abstract nouns, right? So if we're talking about death, or talking about life, talking about the spirit, talking about things that we can't see, things that are intangible, they are still going to be connected to a gender. And this is more referring to the noun itself, to the word that we use to name that noun. So for example, we have, cell phone or telephone, right? In Spanish it's going to be celular or teléfono celular. This is a noun. It is an item. We also have people, and people are also nouns, right? Maria or Monica or Pedro, or I can talk about mi padre, my dad. I can talk about my family, mi familia. So all of those words to relate or to talk about items, people, places, all of those nouns are going to have a gender attached, okay? So, for example, if we talk about paper, el papel, la ventana, la puerta, all of that is going to have a gender. So, this is one of the concepts that we are going to be discussing, not only now, but, all the time that we talk about Spanish learning. Because that is something that we don't see in English. We say silla and we don't think if this is going to be a feminine or masculine word, but we do have to keep an eye on that in Spanish. So all of these vocabulary, for example, over here, I can point out señora, that is feminine. It is referring to a lady, right? We also have, let's flip the page and find some more of those. When we get to the items, when we get to the naming the items in a classroom, in the items around us, we are going to realize that they have particular endings. So if you can see over here, we have nouns that refer to living things or to people, right? We are going to have the masculine ones ending sometimes or most of the times ending like the ones over here, and the feminine nouns ending like the ones over here. So I don't know if you have noticed, when you learn Spanish, most of the times whenever you learn vocabulary, they throw in there the article. They say la puerta, la mesa, la ventana. They don't only throw the word, for example, ventana, window, mesa, table. They usually throw the article as well. So they say la ventana, la mesa, el estudiante. And this is actually because they want to give us a hint of the gender of that particular word or that particular noun. So this is a way to understand, like the ways that we can see how the noun is going to be expressed. It can be the ending, We do have exceptions. That's why we can also use the article in front, or we can also use the context. Okay, so I would say that those are three of the things that we can be looking at to identify the gender of a noun. So in here, we're talking about particularly living things, but we also have some endings that are going to be useful for non-living things. So I was in page 12. This is page 13 of your e-companion, and this is talking about the endings for words or nouns that refer to non-living things. So you can see over here we have, this can be a little bit problematic because we can think that the ending A is going to be related to feminine, but in this case we can see that problema or programa can also be masculine, so you have to keep an eye on this one as well. And some others that are not so easy to identify, like ción or dad. We can have la lección, la conversación, or we can have la nacionalidad, la comunidad. Those are related to feminine nouns, okay? So those are some of the main concepts that we have for unidad número uno, which is going to be the use of male and female. Just think that we have, or we are going to have a gender for each noun, even if it's an abstract noun, if it's something that we don't see. Another thing is that not all the things that are related to female are going to be female. So there is no really way to put those things together without looking at the context, looking at the article, and looking at the ending. Just if you think about the word and then you try to make a relationship between, if female use that item, or it doesn't have to do with any of that. It has to do, like I said, with the ending, with the article, and with the context. Another thing that you have to be looking at is that whenever we use nouns, like I mentioned before, they're going to have a gender, but they are also going to have a number, and those two numbers that we use in Spanish is singular and plural, which is going to be very similar to English. So you just have to make sure that whenever we use a plural noun, everything around it is going to be plural as well. So if we have an article or an adjective that are going to go along with that noun, it has to be plural as well. So in this unit, we are working with definite and indefinite article. We are using los or las for plural, el or la for singular, uno or una for singular, and unos and unas for plural. So VHL Central is going to help you practice with these concepts. Just make sure that you keep an eye on that. Over here, I'm in page 13, and it is talking about the plural of these nouns. And you can see over here, we have very similar rules that like the ones that we have in English. So for example, adding an S is the most common form to make a plural. So if you have mesa, which means table, the plural is going to be mesas. If we have estudiante, singular, plural, estudiantes. Profesor, profesores. So that is the rule that you're going to see over here. Whenever you have a consonant at the end, sometimes you're going to need ES. For example, in English, we say bus, and then we have buses, right? We add ES. So we have some of those rules that are going to mandate how to make the plural of that specific noun. So those are the things I want you guys to be looking at. We also have the word usted, which is formal and an informal setting. So those are the three concepts I want you guys to be looking at. Gender and number, which is masculine, feminine, singular and plural, and formal and informal, right? Familiar or and not so much familiar situation or context.